Listen to the vibes.
The views and opinions of our guests may not necessarily reflect those of the host or the Vibes Broadcast Network. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Listen to the Vibes. I have here Mr. Cal Melkez, and we are going to have a conversation about astral projection. Now, you teach people how to do this, correct?
That is correct. Yes, I've been teaching people for, I want to say, about a decade now.
Wow.
Started with my friends, and then as people came to me, hearsay, from word of mouth, I just helping people along the way. Started a YouTube channel, and that's how it kind of built.
Oh. Well, I'm going to have you tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we're going to get into a conversation. And I feel like this can be an inspiration to people. That they could get something positive out of it. So that's why I wanted to have you on my positivity show. So just tell us about you.
Yeah. So I'm actually glad we're on the positivity show. That makes more sense, because part of the reason why I do what I do, why I teach people this, why I express my life experience, my spiritual journey to people, is to encourage them. A lot of times, especially throughout my life, there was this disparity, this dichotomy between the people who had abilities, the people who were tapping into their psychic powers or whatever, and then the people like myself who just didn't have those abilities. And so a lot of times I found myself, butting heads with those people. It's like, I was jealous a lot of the times, because how can I tap into this? And a lot of my spiritual journey in the beginning was me searching for actionable steps and training and techniques that I could practice to get me to where other people were. I started my spiritual walk like a majority of people, especially in the US, I found spirituality through Christianity, and I built that spirituality into something that was very unique and very my own, and that was more tailored to lucid dreaming, hypnosis, and astral projection at first.
Well, you mentioned about your journey started with Christianity, which mine did too. I was a Baptist preacher for about 5 years. I had a fallout with my preacher, tried going to different churches, and it just seemed like it was more geared to what a group of people decided they wanted to make up rules about, and not so much about the Bible and about what God, I believe, is trying to teach us, especially love and hope. It just seemed like you either play by my rules or you have to leave, and I don't think God's like that.
Right. I feel like it's always like that, especially, I'm not going to say every church, every establishment is like that, but a majority of them, they share these doctrinal differences. You have denominations, and I feel like I've gotten the most out of Christianity when I've taken it as my own walk with God, as my own, connection with God. Like, how should I be conducting my life? Because I feel as though everyone has their own destiny. Like we have, and there's this whole talk of predestination in the Bible, Calvinism, and all these other things that I'm not trying to get into that, but I was always struggling with, what's my destiny? What's my purpose here on this earth? And the answers that I got from the Bible hardly ever came from a sermon or church doctrine. It came from intuition. It came from synchronicities, me encountering God in some experience and taking that and running with it.
I feel like my journey is more spiritual, less indoctrination. So that's I guess my main goal is I'm trying to spread that spirituality as much as I can. Of course, you do what makes you comfortable. I mean, if you need to sit in a church and whatever the preacher's preaching is what you are comfortable with, then go for it. I just feel like if I meditate and I focus on God, that's my spiritual path. And now, I've told you before we started that astral projection is something that I've really been interested in. I've talked about it for years. I want to tell you quickly 2 stories that I believe that I did. So what happened is I went to sleep. I sat up in my bed, and I could see my body still on the bed. I walked out onto the front porch, and I looked around my neighborhood, and I looked up, saw the trees and everything above my house, and then started to go upwards. And as I'm going upwards, I just kind of looked down, and I could see the roof of my house. I could see the top of the trees. And I'm looking around. I'm starting to see clouds. Then all of a sudden, it's just a dark sky. I can see the stars just as clearly as just we're looking at each other right now. As I'm going on and going on, it's almost like I could see the Milky Way itself. I'm going towards it, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh, you know what? I don't know if I'm going to make it back. And as I looked down, I could see a tether on my leg. It's like it got yanked real fast. And then everything that I'd seen when I was going up, I could see in reverse. And then all of a sudden I see my body laying on the bed, and I went through the roof, and I just landed right into my body. And then I woke up real fast. My heart's going 90 to nothing. And I just thought it was a really vivid dream until someone told me, hey, I think you actually projected. Now, the second time, I remember leaving the house, and I went to someone else's home, and I walked in. I saw this couple sitting on their couch watching television. And for some reason, I looked around the house, and I was noticing where everything was at. And then I went back home. Weird dream. I just thought that was a weird dream. But then about a week or two later, I was working for an exterminating company at the time. And I got to this house. I walked in. There's the lady that I saw in what I thought was my dream. Everything in the house, I knew all the rooms. I knew where everything was at, everything. So is this a coincidence, or do you think I actually did an astral projection? I don't know how to explain it.
Right. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I've heard people tell me, they've asked me the same question. They've described something a little more elusive, or a little more, just airy sort of experience. And, they've been like, was that it? Was that this? What you're describing is exactly it. The only thing that is inhibiting you from truly accepting that, I feel like, is your lack of control of it. You just become aware in the experience. And it's like, oh, I'm in this other place. I'm looking at this. It must be a dream. And there's an interesting thing about that. And what I teach a lot of people is that astral projection, the way we think about it normally, is a misconception. People believe that when you astral project, you're taking your soul or your spirit and you're separating it from your body and moving it somewhere else. This butts heads with a lot of things that just tend to make sense spiritually. Like if your spirit was out of your body, you'd technically be dead, sort of things like that. What I've come to understand about astral projection is that it is a movement of your conscious awareness away from your physical body. Now, this idea is difficult for people to accept at first because they don't understand what non-local consciousness is. Consciousness isn't just in your head, just like it isn't just in my head. Consciousness is a field. It's like the ocean that fish swim around in. It's everywhere. It's everything. You're breathing it in. You look at it everywhere you go, just like Morpheus talking to Neo. You see the Matrix everywhere you look. You taste it all the time. You see it on the TV. Like, it's this experience. It's your cognizance of this experience. Now, where astral projection becomes cool is that you're experiencing a reality beyond this physical, beyond the five senses. So it begs the question, if you move your conscious awareness, what are you experiencing? If you're no longer experiencing this body, what are you doing?
Right.
Well, you can look at it as three different things. Usually I teach people that astral projection first starts with imagination, and then it's lucid dreaming or dreaming experiences, and then it's the astral experience. And I like to describe it as a radio. So think about astral projection like a radio in your car. And your dial is set to just your normal home station, we'll call it. And the home station is what you're experiencing right now. So for all the listeners, all the viewers, what you're experiencing at this moment is home consciousness, home frequency on the radio. Now, when you move that dial and you turn it a little bit, you're moving away from the home frequency. That is when you get into a daydream. Is where are you when you're daydreaming? You know, you'll be just off somewhere and you're seeing something, you're experiencing some other reality. And in that moment, you're not experiencing the physical reality. You're not experiencing the home station. And the further you turn that dial away from the five senses, the more you begin to explore these realms outside the physical. And that's where astral projection kind of starts. What you experienced was a spontaneous projection, where you wake up in the middle of the night. I've heard tons and tons of stories of people waking up, they're hovering near their body, they're in a totally different home, they're somewhere else. They're like, what's going on here? You know, they go on adventure. That's why astral projection is so cool. And that's what I think is encouraging about it, is because a lot of people have this fear that they are impermanent, that after this body goes, that's all there is to them. And there is a measure of peace and certainty and confidence you have once you realize that you're more than your physical body. Right. This is just one isolated experience in this body, but there's so much more we can tap into.
I would love to learn how to control it.
Of course, yeah.
And when you were talking about the daydreaming part, sometimes I will get into that meditation mode and then get into my daydreaming, and it's almost like I'm asleep, but I'm still awake. And it, like, if I don't know, maybe I'm walking and I trip in my mind, I'm tripping. I actually feel like I tripped in my body, you know?
Right. Because you're good at it. You've got that experience of it. That's good.
Well, see, and I don't realize, I guess that's what I'm doing. I want to be able to say, okay, this is what I want to do this evening. I'm going to travel. I need to, you know, whatever lessons I need to learn or places I need to go, I want to be able to control that part of it. So where do we begin?
I usually begin, and at this particular moment, there's something that instructors do, is they give you a little bit of information while withholding the meat of it so that you get a morsel, and then you're like, man, I want more. I don't really care about doing that at the moment. So I normally start by teaching people to navigate their inner world and their imagination. Imagination, as I always say, is the muscle of the mind. In our society, especially in Western culture, we've downplayed the imagination. We've downplayed using that muscle of the mind to basically do anything. Everything is naturalistic. Everything is here in this permanent third dimensional. You can touch it. It's real. Anything that happens in the mind has no value. And that's where things have to change. Firstly, beginning. One of the things that I love doing with people is giving them a quick exercise of moving their awareness. I could take you through this exercise now. It's very quick, very easy.
Sure.
Just as something so that you can get the right idea of what we're talking about. So one thing you could do is you can observe your surroundings. So right now, if you will, just take your focus of your eyes and allow your peripheral vision to expand. Just allow yourself to see everything. And usually people can see right around this area right here. So right around the temples they can see. So just become aware of everything and try to take in as much detail without moving your eyes to look at anything. Just allow these things to be there. What I also want you to do next, and anyone listening or watching, is I want you to hear as much as you can in the room. I know you have headphones on, but if you can pick up faint sounds in the room, maybe air conditioning, maybe a fan, anything.
Got my fan going.
Perfect. Anything you can hear, allow that to come into your field of awareness. So now you're seeing about a 140 to 180 perspective. I want you to also then hear every sound that you can. Just allow all this to come in. Become aware of what you can smell. Anything. Become aware of what you can feel. Clothes on your body, the weight of your body in the chair, the wind blowing your hair right now, things like that. Become aware of everything. Try to encompass all five senses. What you're doing here is you're honing in your awareness on the home station. You do this because you want the signal to be very clear, because when the signal is clear on the radio, it's easier to turn the dial and hear the next radio station. So focusing on everything. If you do that for a few minutes, what you'll notice is that there's a strain going on in the mind. It's a little difficult to hold your awareness of everything. That strain is exactly what we want. Focus, feel that. And what I'd have you do now is close your eyes. And I want you to imagine seeing from the perspective of something on the desk in front of you. You can pick any object. And imagine that you are seeing from that perspective with the same stress and strain of your mind, that muscle flexing that you were doing when you were observing everything. Now, the cool thing about imagination is that you can view this as a game, an exercise. You don't have to be strict or hard on yourself. Allow the image that you see to be what's there. Now, after you've done that for a few minutes, I would tell you to come back, open your eyes, rejoin me, and tell me what you experienced. Now, most people will say that for a moment there, I saw a little blip of what it would look like. It was easier to imagine that. And that's exactly what astral projection is. We've gate kept astral projection into an experience that's 0 or 100, and we've excluded the progression that practice will give you. It's impossible to gain mastery of something unless you go from 0 to 100 in increments. You can't just skip to the last result. And so that would be one of the first practicing techniques I give people. And over time doing that, you will realize, oh, I can move my awareness. And then I would give you a meditation where, again, I'm just, you can just practice this throughout your day or whenever you have time. I tell people to sit on the couch, somewhere comfortable, close your eyes, and just imagine looking at the room that you're in from a different perspective. So just close your eyes and imagine seeing from the corner of the room. Focus on that for a week. The next thing you want to do, 5-10 minutes each time. The next thing you want to do is focus on what the room sounds like and looks like from that corner of the room. And then you continue to build your awareness until you're incorporating these 5 astral senses. Until a month down the line, you're doing this exercise and you realize, well, I'm actually here. Like, I'm actually in this corner of the room. You're training yourself to progressively go there. And there are a whole host of other techniques that make this sort of thing easier and that work off of sleep and all sort of other things. It's really fascinating when you get into it.
So, quick question.
Yes.
There's been times where I will be focusing on something and all of a sudden it's almost like I snap and realize, wait, I'm still here, where I almost felt like I was somewhere else. I didn't know if that was just a part of just focusing that hard on something and then, oh, wait a second, I'm right here. Or,
Exactly.
is that part of the exercise?
That's exactly what happens. I started doing this in my meditation journey and found that I would meditate, and maybe 30 minutes in, I would get a flash image behind my closed eyes, clear as day, of me somewhere else. And it's happened before where I felt it viscerally, like, oh, it's snowing here. Like, I can feel the cold, I can smell the surroundings, and then bang, I was back in my body, and it jolted me awake, and I was like, whoa, what happened? Where am I at? And then it started happening more frequently, and then I started to experience these things in a controlled way as I spent more time focusing on them. And when you think about how consciousness works, how your awareness works, if I told you to focus on the palm of your hand, you all of a sudden become aware of your hand, just in me mentioning it. So if you look at awareness as an ocean, the surface of the water, these things rise out of your awareness and you focus on them. So you can move your awareness anywhere to anything that you want to move it to. And all it takes is a level of strength in building that reception in that radio station. You just need to make it clearer with your focus. And you could go anywhere. You could be anywhere at any time. It's how easy it is.
So are you able to move forwards and backwards, your conscious through time itself?
Yes, actually. This I haven't done as often, but I've done it before. More of like what you experienced with the spontaneous projection. I've experienced spontaneously moving through time and seeing different lives, different versions of myself, where things are slightly different. Like I have a child, or, you know, I'm this age all of a sudden in this life, or I have an injury in this life, you know, just something where I've moved my consciousness and I've merged it with this different version of myself without sounding too wacky or weird. A lot of strange things can happen when you're no longer limited by the physical body. So I would ask you, how do you know you're there in your body right now?
Well, right now, I mean, with of course my senses and of I'm aware of my surroundings, so I'm aware I'm at this point in time. Now, going back to my question, because I have actually seen myself in the future. Okay, and I thought this was just all part of my daydream, where I was doing. I'll just go ahead and tell you. I've had this idea of doing something for our veterans, and part of it was I want to build a facility where we can get them in, get them a place to sleep, get clothes on their back, food in their belly, and the only thing they need to worry about and focus on is themselves. I actually saw myself at this place, and I was actually very successful in all this, and I was like, wow, I love this daydream. So possible, or maybe an alternate reality. What's your thoughts?
This is the interesting thing, because I like to add science into these wacky, weird things that we do spiritually. And quantum physics would tell us that there's an infinite number of possibilities. Every decision you make branches off the opposite that you didn't make. And it goes on from there. I believe then that there are any number of realities where you have done certain things. This is where you could get into this reality shifting, or where people call it quantum jumping. It's really just the same thing. It's you tapping into a reality that you want to move into or exist in, and that's just manifestation. The more time you spend in that imagination, that daydream, the more you're going to attract the vibration of that reality and land yourself right there. Because you're basically saying to the universe, I want this thing, and I'm going to match it vibrationally. And one thing that I found to be very useful that I don't hear a lot is when you're trying to manifest something or exist in a certain reality, bring an outcome to you, is to feel how you would feel in that situation, to be the person in the situation. So you would spend time seeing yourself in that VA facility, seeing yourself shaking hands with people, talking to people, doing this, being the successful person, and feel that. Live that moment instead of just watching it behind your closed eyes, and that draws that to you. So astral projection it's more than just looking down at your bed and seeing yourself. That's fun, that's very good, but it has levels to it.
Right.
I've experienced 0 to 100 of the spectrum. I've been out of my body 100%. I don't even remember what my physical body is doing, but the steps in between are what build mastery. So learning to manifest, learning to strengthen your imagination to where you can just start to imagine, I want to be in Paris. I'm just going to imagine being there. And you start to get these flashes of actually being there and growing with that skill until it's easy for you to just project there. Like, it has steps. I feel like that's one of the big misconceptions. People don't think that it's a progressive thing.
That state of consciousness, would the perception of time be different? Say what you're seeing and experiencing, maybe it lasts for an hour, but then when you're back to your consciousness now, it's only maybe been 5 or 10 minutes. Is that a possibility?
It's like, it can be that way, and it can be the opposite of that. Exactly. You can be in an experience what feels like a few minutes and an hour has passed in real life for you. It just depends on the level of consciousness that you have. And obviously, I've done some work with hypnotherapy, and so I have this idea of how to help people navigate consciousness. And you do that through relaxing the body and quieting the mind. What happens is you go from beta to alpha to theta, and theta is where a lot of these interesting things happen. So if you're to sit and meditate, relax yourself, quiet your mind, and quieting the mind doesn't have to be like a Zen monk who doesn't hear a word in his mind for 10 minutes. Like, it doesn't have to be that intense at first. It gets there over time, yes, but it doesn't have to be that intense at first. At first, you can just slow down the rate of thoughts by relaxing. What you're doing is you're inducing a trance state. When you're in this trance state, like I said earlier, how do you know you're in your body right now? You said, well, my senses, I'm aware of my environment. Everything that you experience around you is the product of your mind creating that hallucination so that you can actually experience it. Right. Everything is a, sensory observation that your brain is making through the, syntaxes and all these other things, the stimuli that's hitting your body. So if the senses are what's keeping you in your body, the moment you relax the body, slow down the thinking, you no longer feel the body as much. You're no longer as absorbed in the environment. Then it's easier to move your mind somewhere else. You see?
Now, have you helped people with past life regression?
Absolutely. Yeah. It goes hand in hand with hypnotherapy, past life regression.
That was kind of my next question, because I have done a past life regression session and found myself, I want to say it was the 1800s, and I saw myself as a child and basically experiencing an injury that's kind of parallel to what I have now, because I have a degenerative disease in my spine, and so I'm disabled. I can't get around like I used to. Sometimes I have to use a wheelchair and whatnot. And in this past life, apparently I got hit by a cart or something, and then I end up with an injury very similar to what I have now. Same, not being able to get around as well, but lived a successful life as a scientist. And this just like blew my mind. I'm like, wow, I've got a very active imagination, or this actually happened. So I don't know, tell me what you kind of get, how you get people there, and what experiences have you had with that?
Had a lot of interesting experiences with past life regression, and it's always I'm always apprehensive going into them, because it's like it's in their hands almost entirely. Like I guide you there, and we go where you're seeing in your mind what's happening and all those things, and I just kind of help you navigate. What I do is a mixture between quantum healing hypnosis and life between lives. These are two different modalities, techniques that basically take you into a deep trance state, relax you enough, give you mental imagery things to focus on. And then we use those things to help the subconscious mind get you into this past life experience. This can be guided meditation where you imagine a door. There are plenty of different techniques. But one of the coolest things I've experienced is after someone goes back and experiences that past life, I take them to the moment that they leave that life, and they move into their astral experience. And this is where things get really interesting, because people describe, well, things just became more vibrant in my imagination. I was able to see this cloud. I was able to see these orbs, this energy. I felt peace and love. And there have been times where I've been talking to people, because as I guide them through these things, I'm talking to them also, where I'll ask them a question. It's like, how does it look in this, astral realm that you're in right now? And they don't respond for 5 or 10 minutes, because they're experiencing it. Like they're there, and they're saying, they come back, oh, I'm sorry.
Shut up, leave me alone.
Exactly. And I've learned to just back off. I'll ask the question, they don't say anything, I'll just back off. Make sure they're not sleeping, and then, I'll kind of back off and let them experience it. I've had people tell me they've met with past loved ones, really touching stories of, my mother died of this, and I saw her come up to me and tell me that everything was okay. And, you get these amazing experiences that are just like, if it's just your mind conjuring something up for you, then your mind is doing a damn good job at helping you heal from these past traumas and giving you a better outlook on your future. But I, of course, think it's something deeper than that, just because of the things people have experienced, things that they've seen. And interestingly enough, as I'm meditating with people, I'll get flashes of the things they're seeing also. And I've started to point them out before they, let me know, and it kind of validates for them what they're seeing also. It's like, hey, I see a prairie, there's a field, there's some trees. I see you standing next to this tall person and like a horse. And it's just like, oh yeah, I'm seeing that exactly. How did you know? It's like, just continue with the experience. That's just what happens, because we're all connected. That's how these things happen.
It's funny you said that, because my in-between place is, these nice fields, but I'm next to a river. There's a hill right next to the river, and there would be a cave basically, and that's where I would go and I would rest. But here I am in this beautiful field surrounded by animals and all this beauty. There was never anyone else there. It was just me. But it's, I don't, it's hard to explain. It was just as beautiful as it was. It's almost like, why do I have to go back?
Mhm. Yeah, I feel that. Yeah. Mhm.
So, what positive things can people expect to get out of sessions like that?
Well, one of the main things through hypnosis or guided meditation, or however you get to that place that you described, one of the main things that I found is it creates a staging area for people to have these experiences with other entities, people that they've met in their past life, people that have been influential in their life that may have passed, ascended masters, all these other things. One of the things that astral projection does is it introduces you to your spiritual family, these spirit guides, your higher self that you can interact with. I've had several instances where I've astral projected, and then I've called out to my guides and I've met them. They've talked to me and we've had conversations that have helped me move forward in life. Keep going, keep pushing. You're on the right track, things like that. And that's just one of the first things. Another thing is obviously experiencing whatever it is that you want in life, knowing that there's more to you than just this physical body. Some religious circles, some, alchemical circles, they call the body the prison without walls. And the moment you realize that there is no gate keeping you aside from your perception, you can experience absolutely anything. It's just, we've been taught that we are nothing more than the body, when that's not true at all. It couldn't be any farther from the truth.
I know some of the things that's helped me get past is, I've had PTSD, anxiety, depression, you name it. I mean, I know there's a lot of people out there suffering with it, and they're looking for some way to get past it. I started meditating, and I don't know. I didn't know that might be a part of astral projection, but picturing myself somewhere else or picturing the safety around me, I've been able to, because I used to, don't get me into a crowd. I'm freaking out. We went a few years ago to New York and I actually got on the subway, was fine. Got past the anxiety, the PTSD. I still suffer from it, but it's not as intense as it used to be. I've noticed, because I couldn't go to a fireworks show because I'm not expecting when these things are going off, but yet I could go to a gun range and no problems at all. Well, now I can actually go to a fireworks show and I'm okay. I'll still get kind of built up a little bit when too much is going on at one time, but I'm nowhere near as bad as I used to be. So can people expect to get past these things?
That's actually one of the first things that, I'm glad you described that. It's one of the first things that people experience, especially with just meditation alone. It doesn't have to be trying to astral project or anything like that. Yes, astral projecting is peace. Being outside of the body and being able to go and do what you want is like, it's like taking a weight off, like having a weight vest on and just taking it off. It's like, now I can relax for a moment. But I found that the most positive benefit from meditation is stillness, is mindfulness in the present moment. This is one of the things I teach everyone because it has so much value to it. A lot of people live their lives regretting the past and fearing the future. And they live in this constant loop where they use their past to dictate how their future will go. And it causes them to fear that future and regret the past. And they just stay there. Very few people spend their time in the moment. The meditation I had you do just a moment ago is tuning you into the home station, or another word for that would be the present moment. If you think about it, the present moment is all we have. It's the blade edge of a knife. Like, it is that infinitesimal moment, and everything else you can regard it as not existing. The present moment is here right now, me talking to you, you talking to me. This is all that exists, this moment. That means that any fear you have, it doesn't exist. Any worry of the future you have, it's not there. It hasn't happened yet. You're taking your energy and you're dividing it between these two things. If you take all of that energy and bring it back to the moment, that's where enlightenment is. I wrote a book recently called The Cure for Enlightenment. And that cure for enlightenment is realizing that you have enlightenment. Enlightenment isn't something that you go and achieve, or you go up to a mountaintop and sit with a guru for 2-3 years to acquire. Enlightenment is realizing that you already have that. You are that. Enlightenment isn't something you get, it's something you are. And the moment that you stop and sit and say, I'm just going to be here and I'm going to enjoy this moment, that's when you start to experience enlightenment. That's when you feel the connection to all things, because it's only when you're off somewhere else in your mind that you're not here in the moment.
Exactly.
It changes a lot. It handles the depression, the fear. I've dealt with the anxiety a lot in my life, and it's landed me in the hospital several times. And so I know when it comes up, even storms will do it to me a lot, where a storm will come up and I think the world is about to end. You know, I have these moments at night where I wake up and it's like we're on a ball floating through space. I'm not happy with this. You know, what's going on here? And it's just like, it's nerve-wracking as all hell. And I just bring it back to this moment. Who am I in this moment? Like, I'm sitting here, I'm laying in bed, the fan is going, there's peace in this moment. Be here in the moment.
That's right.
Everything you want is in the moment. Those visions you're having of the future and the joy that you're experiencing of that imagination, you're feeling that in the present moment. Everything that you want is accessible here. And that's one of the best things about manifestation. When you really get it, you realize that once you start exuding who you want to be, that's when you attract the things that you want. Like, I have peace, I have love, I have happiness right now. So I'm going to attract those things to me. Because the universe is saying to you, God is saying to you, I'm not going to change the situation until you've changed in the situation, because you're the thing that's changing it. So, and another thing that I find, and it blows my mind every time, but you can't exist vibrationally in two different places. So if you're vibrating highly, if your vibration is high, you're high emotional, you know, very, very oriented on love and positivity, you can't exist in an environment that is negative. Those two forces don't come together.
That's right.
So the moment that you raise your vibration, your environment has to change. There's no way that it can't.
That's right.
You can't be out of alignment like that. It's just not possible.
I know when I'm getting those situations where they can cause anxiety or anger, what have you, I am so miserable if I don't, you know, get back to focusing in on my positivity. I don't know. I can't rest. I just can't function. I don't know how else to explain it. I am miserable until I get back to my right state of mind. And now we were talking about vibrations. Now, and people hear that, but can you, I don't know, explain it, you know, in a way that they kind of understand what you really mean? Because I know what you're talking about. I'm trying to achieve that. It's why I've changed my inner circle. It's why I've gotten rid of a lot of things in my life that it's not serving me any good, and trying to hone in on this positivity thing. But maybe you can explain it better than me.
It can get very confusing, the different ways to explain it. But if I were to put it simply, when you think about influential spiritual figures like Jesus or the Buddha or Gandhi or whatever, or these other people that you can, you know, various people that you can name that are very spiritual and, you know, high up there, you see that they're exuding a certain characteristic, and it's usually love, usually peacefulness, kindness. These are higher vibratory things because of the energy in them to create, to, you know, change, to adapt, things like that. Lower vibrational things hate, anger, wrath, these different things that are just, there isn't any energy in them. It's just a low vibrational thing. So when I say vibration, I'm just meaning energy, the energy that you're putting off. When you spend time meditating on these high vibrational things, thankfulness, goodness, happiness, love, these things like that, the raising of your vibration basically means like you're starting to exude these qualities, like you're living in these qualities. And so when you go out about your day, you change the environment around you because you're bringing in something new to it. And like I said, you can't go into an environment that is negative while being positive without changing that environment. It's just not possible. You have to go in and the environment has to change because you're there. Very simply put, because I don't want to go into like super deep stuff about chakras and, all these other levels of reality. I feel like that'll get things muddled. Raising your vibration is as easy as doing something that makes you happy, that relieves stress. If listening to a piece of music that is beautiful, that gives you, the tinglies all over, you're very happy, that's raising your vibration. It's raising your state, your mood. Now, there are people who talk about like moving up to like the next dimension of reality, all these other things. I feel like the easiest thing to do is think about maintaining that positivity of mind. I'd say often that the mind is like a field, and if you plant things in the field of the mind, it can be poison or it can be a flower, and the mind will produce, because we are the creators of our reality. When you're vibrating highly, chances are the things you're planting in your mind are going to produce fruit and not thorns and that sort of thing. And that's what you want to do. You want to add positive things to your life, obviously, not negative things. I mean, that's a no-brainer.
Sometimes it's difficult, especially when I'm driving. I can easily get into a negative mindset.
And that's another thing. Just emotions are energy in motion. Like I don't go through my day on cloud nine, my face shining white. I'm always happy on, that's not the human experience. This too shall pass. Everything changes. And so when you move into these places of anger and rage and things like that, we judge them. And this is an interesting Buddhist concept of just non-attachment, non-judgment. If emotions are energy in motion, when a negative emotion comes to you and you lock it up because you identify with it, like, oh, I've gotten angry, oh, this is all I am, you stop that emotion from moving and allowing the next thing to come through. See, we get locked up in these places. And when we approach life as, it is what it is, I'm happy how things go, however it goes is fine. Because like, I know that I create my reality, I know what I want, and those things will come to me. If something comes that doesn't look like what you want, that's okay. You don't have to be that thing. It doesn't define you when what you've wanted to do in life doesn't work out the way you wanted it to right away. You get some delayed success. It doesn't have to define you. It's just another step on the staircase of getting to where you want to be, and just allow it to move through you. That's right. All it is.
Yeah, get past it quick. That's the thing. Don't hold on to it. Yeah. I mean, everybody's going to experience different types of emotions, and it's like you said, just let it pass, let it go. Don't hold on to it.
Feel it, acknowledge it. I mean, a lot of people try to ignore it. Like, I'm not angry. You'll be angry all day trying not to be angry, pretending that you're not angry. I mean, acknowledge it. This upset me. Why did it upset me? Well, this person offended me. They said this about me. Well, what they said about me isn't who I am. It's who they perceive me to be. Mm-hmm. Who am I? I am this. I want to be this. And then you move right along. The reality is very interesting, because this whole human experience, this whole life experience is just oneness pretending to be manyness. Like, we're all one. We have the illusion that we are many separate entities. But we're all one. And we're the same thing, experiencing life through a different filter. Alan Watts says it quite brilliantly. He says, we are the aperture by which the universe perceives itself. We're just the lens on the camera. We're just here to experience, to go through this thing.
Yeah, like you were saying, if you don't experience that being angry or whatever, and you think you've locked it away, what you're doing is you're building it up, and eventually it's going to build to just like pressure in a bottle. You shake up a Coke bottle, eventually that pressure is going to pop, and it's going to go everywhere. So feel it, but get it over with. Don't hold on to it.
Yeah, just because there's no reason to judge it as this or that. Just it's another experience on a long line of experiences you'll have. Just allow it to move on. This too shall pass is a good one that I go by.
And I like the idea that you brought up about, live for today. Don't worry about what's going to happen in the future. One of my favorite songs by Triumph is they say, live for today, forget about tomorrow, follow your heart.
Yeah. And that's the funny thing. Like you read these articles about people on their deathbed, their old age. Like, what do you wish you would have done with your life? And one of the best ones I heard was, I wish I had just taken more risks. I wish I had, in my youth, done what I wanted to do, what I believed was me, as opposed to conform to society's image of what I should be. Yeah. And because when you get to the end of the road, you're like, well, what am I going to be more impressed with? That I worked at a job for 50 years and have a pension, or that I had memories and experiences with my family, that I did something to express my uniqueness to the world? Life is, I feel like it's so different than what we've been taught and coached into by capitalism or whatever ism that we're living under in this world. It's much more to it.
There's no guarantee for tomorrow. So live your best life now, because you don't know what's going to happen an hour from now. Honestly. You don't know what's going to happen 5 minutes from now. Yeah. But if somebody wants to get help from you or get lessons from you, where would they go?
You can just email me at calmelkezmovement@gmail.com, or you can find me on YouTube under Cal Melkez, or Instagram or TikTok. I'm on all of those things. You can Google Cal Melkez, you'll find me. And you can just message me and we'll work things out. I have a link that I can give you that, people can find in the show notes or description.
Yes,
that'll lead you straight to my scheduling page if you guys are interested in that sort of thing. And on Amazon, you can also find the book, The Cure for Enlightenment. I believe it's still free. They had like a little deal going on for a while, where you can pick up that book, where I teach meditation. I teach being in the moment, experiencing enlightenment and living a life of enlightenment, as opposed to living from one event to the next. Your whole life is an experience of enlightenment.
Well, if you could give me all those links, I'll be glad to put that in the description.
Absolutely.
And I want to, send people to your book, and of course, so maybe somebody out there can benefit from your teaching. So, Cal, thank you for taking time out of your day to be with me, and I hope we can stay in touch.
Definitely, Cal. It was a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
And I want to thank everybody that has joined us. If you are new to the channel, please subscribe, and I hope you'll come back. For those of you who are regular, thank you for your support. It's because of you that we do what we do. And so until the next one, everyone, please take care. Be kind to one another. God bless, and peace.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Listen to the Vibes. You can catch us on Buzzsprout or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts, and on YouTube. Follow us on Facebook at The Vibes Broadcast Network,